Today we're going to be talking about part 2 of story, and this is a very important piece to add into the whole what is our story, how does our story affect us, does our story serve us, right? How does that impact our actions? I did a training video on that just about a week ago, and it will be in the library listed there for you. It'll say story, right? And so this is part 1 of that, but now we enter into part 2 of this story video, and this one is equally as if not more important than that original video, okay? So to recap really quickly, our story in terms of what we tell ourselves about what is happening in life is often more powerful than the reality itself. What we tell ourselves about what's going on is more important than what's actually going on in terms of its impact on our life. Give you a really quick example. There's 2 types of people in this world. The first type of person gets onto the freeway and there's traffic and they act as if traffic is happening to them. How could this happen to me? Traffic is happening to me. Now, what's the impact of this, right? They get angry, they have road rage, they're really pissed off. That story doesn't serve them, right? Traffic didn't happen to you. And so we go to the next person on that who gets onto the freeway, right? And they're just like, traffic, right? This happens. It's just traffic. And they turn on a podcast or they listen to music or whatever, and they move on and they don't let that thing, right, become this big deal. Now, did traffic happen to you, or did you happen to traffic? Did your story happen to traffic? The answer there is absolutely yes, right? Our story and what we are talking about and what we are looking at, we have some sort of built narrative about what that thing is. I use traffic as an example. You could use anything as an example. Now, where does today's training come in? We're going to use 2 words that really get you aligned with what is actually happening now, okay? And so a lot of people who I've worked with one-on-one have probably heard me say this. I say, now, I want you to be, here comes the 2 words, unflinchingly realistic. I want you to be unflinchingly realistic about what's actually happening. Now, here's what's going to happen for you when you ask yourself this question. You're going to go, okay, if I'm being unflinchingly realistic about what's happening, what is actually going on? One of the first things that you're probably going to hear is, well, I feel like, no, it's not about what you feel. It's not about your interpretation of what's going on. I just want you to be aligned with what is actually happening, right? Not your story about it, not your interpretation of it, not the meaning it has, what is actually going on. I'm getting hit by a bit of a glare here, so let me see if I can take care of this. Okay, so we're just gonna stand up and hopefully we're gonna deal with this glare, which is getting a bit worse. There, that's better. Okay, so is the glare happening to me, or did I just happen to the glare? Right? Perfect example, right? So let's keep on moving on. All right, so if we are unflinchingly realistic about what's going on in life, we see that it could be, I tried something and I got a result, right? Now, was it the result you wanted? No. I tried to do X and I got result Y. That's the reality. That's if you are unflinchingly realistic about what happened, you go, okay, I tried to do this and I got this result. That's it. That's just the reality. Now, what is your story about that? Oh, well, I'm a failure and I can never do something and I'm not. See how this plays in, right? So there's the story you're telling yourself about what's happening. Then there's actually what's happening over here. There's the story about the glare. Let's say I had like this story that I had to have perfect lighting all the time, right? I go into a glare, I gotta do this all over, this is terrible, I can't do this outside, right? That's the story. But what's actually happening? There's sunlight coming through that tree. That's all. That's all. That's actually the reality. There's sunlight coming through the tree, and then there's the story. So here's what happens when we become unflinchingly realistic about what is actually going on, right? It aligns us with reality. It doesn't align us with the judge, because the judge is telling you a story about what's happening, right? But if we are unflinchingly realistic, we align ourselves with the reality, we actually see that things are a lot simpler than we make them, that there's definitely, we got the plane coming through here today too, okay? And so we're just gonna let that go by and not create a big old story about how this video has to be perfect, even though that is ridiculously loud. And so when we get, this couldn't have happened at a better time. You're seeing story and reaction in real time, okay? So I hope you appreciate that. And if you do, put the little clapping emoji down in the comment section. Okay, here we go. So, our story and what we tell ourselves about what's going on, yes, that is one way that you can look at it. And you can either go, okay, is this a positive story or is this a negative story? Or you can just go, well, what is the reality of all of this, right? It's just there's cars on the road. There's a glare. There's a plane in the sky. And are you happening to that thing, right? Is my story happening to the plane in the sky? Is my story about perfection with these videos? Or is my story that I have here about showing up to offer you something that really will help and getting real universal feedback in terms of making this video better, right? So, if you want to begin to align and really get back to, well, what is the reality of the thing? I just want you to go, I'm going to be unflinchingly realistic. Take one element of something that's happening for you right now in life, whether you didn't get a job, or that you are, doing something in this relationship, or there is a mess at the house. It doesn't matter. And I want you to go, what is the unflinchingly realistic way of looking at this? There's a pile of clothes there, right? They said this, right? I need to do this. And you begin to dissolve all of the story, and you just look at something and you see it very clearly. Stories have the capacity to blind us to what's actually going on in life, right? And often it is what we are interpreting as happening in life that is really powerful, and that dictates how we feel about things. But if we just get back to aligning ourselves with this is what's happening, we actually disintegrate a lot of the mess that we are creating for ourselves, okay? So, this is something that I want you to take on today. I want you to work on throughout this week and really get aligned back with, okay, well, what's actually happening here? That might work for you, right? Is what's actually happening. For some people, they just go, if I'm being unflinchingly realistic about this, what's happening here, right? And just get yourself to identify what is actually there and not your interpretation of the thing. We worked through the interpretations of things in story part 1. This is just about getting to the reality of it, the dead honest reality. And when you can get there, you will watch your stories begin to disintegrate. Okay? So if you have any questions about this, please drop them down in the comment section below. Be more than happy to answer them for you. I'll see you later.